For some time now, I have hesitated to put my testimony out into the public domain. And the reason for that is because I am uber skeptical. But not for no good reason. I'm a very rational person, and I have found ways to measure things, right? Measure things human. And so I know that back in the day, like back when Canada was a much more moral country, we had a many more people with a solid moral core than what we have today. Even back then, 30% of the population would lie for money, depending on the circumstances, right? Like how much money was involved, how rich or broke they were or weren't, and but yeah, there was 30% would lie for money. At least 30% would cheat on their income tax. So we know that there's no shortage of liars out there. And we know that there's more people will lie to make you like them, or lie to make themselves bigger than you. And so you know how many of these stories of people that died and went to heaven? You know how many of them I believe? Yeah, zero, none. And you know how many of these stories of people that were abducted by aliens I believe? Again, none, zero. And it's because liars will, that's something that they can lie about and get away with. They can't be proven wrong, right? Like one of the things that the liars really fear is to be found out. But really good liars have learned that if they tell a lie, most people can never be absolutely certain that they're lying. So they can, to some degree, get away with it, right? Remember that Thatcher that killed his wife, right? And he told, I think it was his sons, deny, deny, deny. And he was a politician, right? So he knows that, you know what? If you lie, some people believe you, and some people won't. And but it's the same if you tell the truth, right? Some people won't believe you or pretend they don't believe you when you tell the truth. And so yeah, but still in all, my testimonies are true. I don't lie. Nope. And so, I'm not saying I've never lied. Of course I've lied. I've lied to, let's see here. What have I lied about? I know that I've lied. I just can't think of any specifics right now. Oh, well, yeah, when I was younger and I get into a fight, right, I'd exaggerate. And, but at some point I realized, you know, that's not good. That's not kosher. So I quit making up those kinds of stories. And, let's see. Oh, yeah, I lied once to, a cop asked me if I knew who was driving a certain vehicle. And I knew who was, but I lied and said, no, I didn't. So, to protect a friend. I lied to protect a friend from criminal charges. But I'm not going to lie about some of the things that Jesus has done for me, you know? And so, but the other reason I'm going to tell it is I think it can be verified. I think these things that I say can be corroborated. At least, maybe not verified, but at least corroborated. So I'm going to start with the first, what seemed to be a miracle. What at the time I was fairly certain was a miracle. And then when I got older and I was bombarded with atheism and Darwinian evolution, I kind of questioned the miracle. But I'm back now to where I was sure today, as I was when I was 6 or 7 years old, that what happened was in fact a miracle. So what happened was, I'm trying to remember what day of the week it was. I think it was a Sunday, and I had a little dog named Patches, and he was there was a road outside of our place, and then across that road was a vacant lot beside a curling rink, and then the outskirts of town there was a farm right there. There fenced, and the farmer used to put bulls in the field there. And so my dog was coming across this vacant lot beside the curling rink toward my house, towards where we lived. And I don't know if I should call it my house because it was my mom and dad's house, but I felt it was mine too. So, anyways, our house, I'll call it that. So my dog Patches is walking towards me, and he steps onto the road. There was a gravel road, and then there was a sidewalk, and then there was an elevated chunk of land that was an elevated lot that was where we lived. And so as my dog is walking across the gravel road, this big old station wagon come barreling around the corner of our block, and so I called to Patches to hurry up, and so he just looked at me like he knew what he was doing, right? He didn't seem too concerned about this car that was coming, and his estimates of time were actually okay, because he made it onto the there was a bit of a grassy strip between the gravel road and the sidewalk, and he made it onto that grassy strip in time, but the car veered off of the road onto the grassy strip and run my dog over. And so I heard him yelping, and I could see him rolling underneath this huge station wagon, and the car rolled over him, and Patches got up right away, and he was just kind of standing there and barking in pain. And and he was looking at me like funny, like out of the corner of his eye. And looking back now, I think what he was doing was telling me, "Don't you touch me, don't touch me," because he must have been like in sore from hell, right? And so then my mother opened the door, and she said, "Don't go near the dog, son. Just leave him alone." And so Patches kind of backed himself into a corner of the house, and he just stayed there and looked at me and barked, like he was trying to tell me, "Don't you touch me, don't touch me." And so I went into the house, and my mother phoned a relative, and this relative said he would be right over, and so I thought, I assumed, that he's going to the vet, or when you're a kid, you think adults can fix everything, so I felt a little bit better, and I just stayed inside the house, and so the relative come and took Patches out to the nuisance ground to shoot him, and so when I found this out, I said, "No, don't shoot him." And so my mother grabbed me and pulled me close and said, "Don't worry, we'll get you another dog, son." And I'm like, that's not what I wanted to hear. And that kind of that really, really annoyed me to hear her say that. And so I said, "No, I don't want another dog. Don't shoot Patches." And but that was my mother. She made up her mind. She just steamed on ahead. And so anyways, that night I was really, really just emotionally distraught, and so we didn't have a family prayer in our house. It wasn't kind of on the list of things to do, or nightly or daily or weekly Bible study or anything like that. We didn't go to church. But my parents had a belief, right? They weren't atheists. They just had their own little belief in their own belief system, and kind of kept it to themselves, right? Mostly to themselves. Once in a while I'd hear my mother talking, and she'd say something about, something that she thought was a miracle in the past, and but I didn't really know how to pray well, I knew how to pray, and I guess I learned, but I hadn't learned it from my home environment, right? So, and I think where I learned it was this lady, Mabel Wigley, uh, convinced my mother to let her take me to this vacation Bible school, and so we prayed there, and so I think that's where I first learned to pray, and so I got down on my knees beside my bed, and I was just praying and praying, and I started to cry, and I was snot was coming out all over the place, and I just I couldn't stop, just pleading with God to send my dog back, and I prayed until I fell asleep. And on that night, I dreamed that my dog came back, and so in the morning, I thought, you know what? That was a message. Somehow I knew that that was a message, and so I told my mother. I said, if God wanted to, or I asked my mother in the morning. I said, if God wanted to, He could send my dog back, right, Mom? He could send Patches back. And of course, she started in with the, "Oh, don't worry, son, we'll get you another dog." And so I couldn't get her to say what I wanted her to say, which was, "Yeah, if God wanted to, He could send your dog back, absolutely." So, I got frustrated. I just went to school, but I still sensed that I was right, that my dog was coming back. And you know what? You know what? It must have been Wednesday or Thursday when my dog was run over. And how I remember the time so well was we were singing in the choir. It was either for Mother's Day or Easter. I can't remember. Probably Mother's Day. And and the song we were singing was, "How much is that dog in the window? Ruff, ruff. The one with the waggly tail." And so I'm standing there in the choir, and as we start to sing that song, my lip starts to quiver, my lower lip starts to quiver, and tears start to run down my face, and I can't. Every time I go to open my mouth, just as kind of like a guttural growl would come out, and so I just clamped my mouth shut. I felt everyone was staring at me, but looking back now, I can see that probably no one even noticed. Maybe the teacher did, but just didn't say nothing. And so I'm like embarrassed from hell in the choir with my big mouth shut, and I couldn't sing that song. So I know that it was either Easter or Mother's Day of my second year. So I would have been uh, I would have been 7 years old, and and it would have been in the late spring or early spring of my seventh year, which would make it 69, actually. So or 70, 69, I think. Uh, so, anyways, on that Sunday, I'll never forget. I know for sure it was a Sunday, because I was asleep downstairs in the living room, and there was a kind of a porch off of the living room, and my sister heard a scratch at the door, and I hadn't got out of bed yet. She was in her nightgown or her house robe, and she opened the door and she screamed, "Patches is back!" And she's like doing this high step, kind of a dance or something, and she's just screaming, "Patches is back! Patches is back!" And yes, I went over to my dog, and I knelt down there, and it was my dog. Some people tried to say, "Oh, it must have been a different dog," and the theories they'll come up with to to avoid the obvious. It's never ceases to amaze me. But anyways, It was my dog, and he had two bullet wounds, just kind of between his eyes, and so between his eyes and above, or more on the nose eye, where the nose kind of bridge is between the eyes and when the nose meets the face. And there was two bullet holes there. I think about, I don't know, maybe an inch and a half apart or so. And so or wound holes, right? Look like bullet holes, look like bullet wounds. And so yeah, for the longest time I was quite certain that that was a miracle. And then later when I got older, you start to wonder, well, where is this God then? That and there had been some other incidents in the family that my mother sometimes referred to as miracles, but like years roll by, and God never phoned you up to go bowling on Tuesdays, and so you start to question, and the people around me were really questioning this whole God question, right? And so I think I absorbed some of that from my culture, right? That where is God? He never seems to be anywhere, and so I think I absorbed some of that, but not completely neither. And so yeah, so that was kind of it's kind of I guess maybe I don't know if that no that's not really where it started. Where my what would you say, my inquiry into the divine began, but it definitely took it up a notch. And so yeah, so no, I think that was a miracle, absolutely. It's imaginable that my dog got run over, and it's altogether imaginable that a child might pray for his dog to come back, and it's altogether imaginable that he might have a dream that that dog comes back. And you know what? You could even imagine that dogs' skulls are very thick. Maybe the bullet deflected, didn't enter the brain, maybe, and maybe the getting run over by that car, I don't think injured him that much. I think he would have been okay if we just had him let him be for a few days. I think he would have recuperated. So so there is a wiggle room for doubt there, right? But when I look at what as things evolved over time, yeah, no, I'm quite certain that that was a miracle. Absolutely. Okay, so that's my first. But one of the reasons I'm putting this out there is I've had a number of dreams, and I'm going to document these dreams. And my sister and I haven't spoken in since 2002, since early fall of 2002, I think, or maybe even summer of 2002. We had a big falling out over my mother's health situation, and yeah, I wrote her a fire and brimstone letter, and she's never gotten over that. And so, but I don't think she would lie and deny that that happened. I think she would be honest about that. And you know what? I want to document this, and I want to write a book, right? And hopefully, I can get a publisher to do their own little investigation, right? And yeah, talk to my sister, because she can corroborate Patch's story. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you.